contracted office. I've been, like every day there's stuff to do, either in the garden or like getting ready for the next session. It's like, there's no end to it. And the things that die have to be replaced.
You're done. You're good.
Okay. All right, we're good. Let's go, folks. This would be the June 2022 work session of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Frostburg. Roll call when you're ready.
Commissioner Donnie Carter.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
I really messed that up. Sorry. Commissioner Nina Forsythe. Here. Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
And Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here.
We got them all.
Okay, we have a busy agenda for you today, a lot to talk about. The first one is Dix Lane water line extension. I have a map here. So you can see, oh, it's vibrating again, sorry. You can see that here's Hoffman Ball Field, and Dix Lane is outside of city limits across from the ball field. Dennis Johnson has purchased this property here. There was a house on it that was served by a cistern many years ago that's been torn down. I don't know how the other people get their water. Dennis Johnson has been relentless to both the city, Hayden and me, and the county, trying to get public water there. And the county has agreed some deal we're not necessarily aware of, but that they'll extend public water from the intersection here behind the ball field down Washington Hollow to Dix Lane, and it's going to serve four parcels. So
All the houses on Dix Lane?
yeah,
Okay.
that's all there is what
Okay.
you see right there. However, it's been a while since the city has allowed the county to create a new system served with city water, the most recent being Mount Savage. There's a water purchase agreement that was signed between the county and the city for Mount Savage that says, you can only expand your system by this percentage. Your rates are going to be set by the Public Service Commission ruling. Ta-da. It also sets a buy-in price for all the surcharges that other people, like residents of the city or people in Eckerd or Zoman, have paid over the years, that has paid for the debt on the water system. There's this rate lump sum that we've charged for the county to add people into the Frostburg water system. I don't have the exact number, but with Mount Savage it was somewhere between $700 and $750. So I wanted to bring this before you today, see if you were agreeable to this, and then if so, we could ask our attorney to do a water purchase agreement for Dix Lane.
Commissioner, you had heartburn?
No, I think if it's to avoid like doubling up on pipes, it makes sense to do that. I don't see a downside. Do you?
Their water consumption would be minimal. We wouldn't even see it.
Okay, yeah. So it makes sense to me.
Okay. Very good. I don't know that this will be a resolution this month because we'd have to wait for the agreement to be drafted. However, I think we have enough to go ahead and tell Jim Weber at the county that the mayor and council are agreeable and they can proceed with design. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. The next one is LJ, who is here by phone.
Thanks everyone for accommodating me by phone. I'm here to talk to you about our city code and the International Property Maintenance Code, section 302, which is a popular one for numerous type of violations that we address here in the city. We've been working with Mr. Cohen to straighten this out because what we believe happened was we inadvertently deleted section 302 of the IPMC from real property standards. And I don't believe that was our intention. Our intention was to eliminate the section that talked about high grass and weeds, which is something that is addressed in the city code. But what we inadvertently did was leave out some serious violations that we need to and have in the past addressed very commonly, like rodent harborage, exhaust vents and accessory structures, unlicensed and or inoperable vehicles, and defacement of property. So deleting that section in its entirety leaves us without any recourse for those kinds of issues. So what we did in conjunction with Mr. Cohen is look at it, and we're asking to readmit portions of section 302 and update the city code to reflect that the high grass would be addressed by the IPMC, and then trees and shrubs and other items would be addressed by the city code. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go into any other kind of detail that you might need.
Okay.
Yep, good.
What, I'm sorry, you said that the high grass would be addressed by the city code, so what is it that this is in, the section 8?
Deleting the section 302 in its entirety handicaps us from being able to deal with unlicensed and inoperable vehicles and a number of other issues. But broken down and untagged vehicles is a big problem that can start to multiply if you don't address it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So we want to be able to have the teeth to enforce that portion of the code again because we accidentally deleted that.
Let me show you, Nina. So in the city code, IPMC is referenced as our property standards.
Okay, I see.
But then there's specific property standards that the city has that are kind of...
That's specific to the city?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So,
Thank you.
so that's...
So that's that in addition to the IPMC that we filed?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, LJ.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, LJ.
Sure. So my understanding is this would be introduced at your meeting as a first reading, and then there'd be a public hearing and so forth for that process. Is that correct, Elizabeth, for City Code?
Yep, it'll be introduced at the June meeting, and then the public hearing and second reading will be at the July meeting.
Yep. Very good.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, this project has been discussed in closed session previously because of the sensitive real estate transaction, but I feel like we are at a sufficient point to discuss this publicly. The concept is to create a public parking lot downtown between Mechanic and Park Streets, directly behind Armstrong Insurance's building and garage. The project is a viable project with the acquisition of the two properties highlighted in green. I have a signed contract for those two properties in here, for those highlighted in green. So that part, should you decide to move forward with it, that signing those contracts will be a resolution at your meeting next week. Additionally, the lot highlighted in yellow, the L-shaped, the former deluxe cleaner, it is being appraised now. I've met with the property owners and spoken to them on various occasions. They are agreeable to selling, depending on the appraisal. My proposal would be is if the city is able to acquire that property, that as part of that transaction is we would swap properties with them as part of the negotiations to obtain that property and parking lot, and they would then get the city lot just west of there to serve their other apartment building, which is this large apartment building right here. And then if that comes to fruition, this last parcel could be considered as well for acquisition. The complicating factor with 32 West Mechanic is that it was a former dry cleaner, and it is listed as a potentially contaminated site. So the city will need to do its due diligence with MDE to make sure that we're not getting into disturbing land that is then going to become a much bigger permitting remediation issue than anyone anticipates.
Are we going to contract with them to do the testing on the soil?
I don't know. From what I understand from MDE, is that as long as you're not disturbing the soil, like, things are okay. It's when you start disturbing the soil that's when you have to worry about these compounds that could potentially be there.
Yeah, if we're allowed to just pave over top of it and cap it, then we're good to go.
And in conversations with MDE, they told us like that we could probably, if we put an easement on it, that it's just going to remain paved. We could probably excavate a certain amount of soil and landfill it according to their regulations. But unfortunately, like we've discovered with a lot of asbestos and things like that, it's the testing for it that costs 3 times as much as the remediation for it. So, not in the case of this building, but there's been other examples where the environmental testing is expensive.
I can't believe anybody was allowed to live in that building. That's just ridiculous.
And from what I understand, it's okay because the soil's not disturbed. Like, it's not.
I think it's against state law, against environmental law, that you have people, in a residence living in a former dry cleaning site where there might be those hazardous chemicals.
I don't know that if that was the case, why wouldn't MDE cite them?
Yeah, you'd think. Yeah.
I mean, MDE, they know.
They're aware of it.
But I think
Yeah.
people lived there when it was a dry cleaner, so it would have probably been grandfathered into anything that was going on.
But do the subsequent residents even know that?
Well, I don't know.
I doubt it.
So that's a to be determined. But just wanted to talk about this project, and the appraisals for 28 and 30 West Mechanic came in a little over $300,000. I was able to negotiate with the property owner for those two properties to get it down to like $297,500 for both properties. And then to pay for this, it would be a combination of bond proceeds left over from the construction of this building that were not needed, which is around $200,000, and then the remainder of the project would be ARPA funded. don't know construction costs yet because we don't know how big it's going to be yet. But I think it would be a very beneficial project to city employees that need an off-site parking spot, the churches, downtown, the residents that live downtown that need off-site parking, that buy permits off of us. You know, it would be in theory moved to this lot, and just any event at City Place. I think it benefits all of those people. The current city lot up here is narrow, so it's angle-in parking, which is very tight. It's not, there's no lighting other than street lighting, there's no cameras, there's no anything. It's just a lot. So I think this is an opportunity to do something that's more on par with what was done over at St. Mike's, that has well-designed spaces, handicap spaces, lighting, a little bit of green space or trees at least.
Yeah, good. I think it's good.
I would encourage you to talk to your friends in town, family in town, and get their feedback between now and next week, because no one wants to start down a path to find out later that no one likes it. But I mean, everyone I've talked to seems
It's a
very
big benefit
supportive
without
of it.
that.
Would it be all permit parking?
No. We only sell a handful of permits, right, Nick?
Do we
Like
have an estimate, like how many
2 to
how many
5.
spots are gonna be, we're gonna be able to put into this?
There's
lot?
22 in the current lot.
Okay,
At its max, if we got the green, the orange, and the red,
okay,
just bare bones, no green space, it would be about 64 to 68.
wow,
Now that's if it's just a Walmart parking lot.
right,
Take away a few for handicap parking, and then take away for green space, and you're looking at anywhere from 50 to 60, I would think.
Which is substantial.
that's,
That's substantial.
yeah, that's really substantial, wow. Yeah,
And then,
it'd be a good benefit for the city.
yeah, and how many would be reserved for city employees?
There would be, let me think, there's probably 18 Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then a much lesser amount for the police.
So, I mean, it'll still be available in the evenings and stuff like that, so.
In your weekends, yeah.
I think
I
it's a
don't
good
see how
idea.
anybody would complain, especially considering how people have been complaining about there not being enough parking, so yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, great.
very good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry this meeting is all me talking. I apologize. The next one is impossible to see. There we go. So this is for the enterprise vehicles for this coming year. Ignore the top two. All I'm seeking permission and your approval to order is 3 half-ton trucks, 2 for the street department, 1 for the water department. The reason there's 2 for the street department is because the one Dodge that was ordered last year for the street department is still just ordered, and they're not going to make it. So now we're 2 behind in the street department. Our half-ton trucks are disintegrating from salt as we speak, and so they both need replaced, and then the water department needs they're slated to replace their half-ton meter reading truck. And then Parks and Rec, their older 3/4 ton truck needs replaced as well. And they've asked for a utility box. They've asked for a very similar outfitting that the street and water department have on their 3/4 ton trucks, and also adding a plow package. So these will all be Chevrolets if you approve. Dodge is, who knows when their order bank is going to open, and this whole fiasco with this half-ton and that they only made 5 different types of vehicles, so like they probably won't even make a 3/4 ton available to government pricing. So these are all Chevys. Ford's order bank already closed, so that's not an option. They're all Chevys, and I signed a letter of intent with Enterprise, so they have been ordered, but they're not in any way, we're not obligated to purchase them when they do come in, but the order has been placed for them. So if there's any concerns or questions about it, let me know.
And the price is locked in?
It will be ballpark in that,
Okay.
it'll be very close to that based on
Can you
all
blow
of
the
their
prices
estimates.
up?
So when you're looking at these numbers over here, that's that's for 3 trucks.
Okay.
Unfortunately, heavy duty trucks are just a gazillion dollars.
Yeah.
This 20 or 72,000, the aftermarket cost is included in the 72,000. It's not a $97,000 vehicle. It's just a $72,000 vehicle. The good thing is we're starting to get rid of vehicles that actually have some value. We're not begging people to take them away for scrap.
You're gonna love it. Rubber tires, you're gonna love it.
So that's good. That as,
Lawn decoration.
Yeah, right.
as the vehicles, and then soon we're going to be replacing new vehicles, and it's just you're building equity in your fleet then. So
On your maintenance savings,
mhm.
Yeah.
we're gonna start seeing that more and more in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
At some point, the Jeep, the staff Jeep, they've encouraged us to trade that in because the used market for that vehicle is like, I think he told us that Blue Book's for 13 and we only paid 16 for it, so, or 17.
And you hate
So-
it anyways.
And Hayden doesn't fit in it. That's a big problem.
Yeah, but we get a good laugh out of watching him try to get in it. That's worth the price in itself.
I gotta pull myself out of it.
Before we get rid of it, we need to do a little video.
We're gonna get him a minivan.
I roll around in a minivan.
So we're working on different options there of what will work, and we'll probably come back to you in another month or 2 with a replacement for that.
good, very good.
So, any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. The tractor purchase. Can we talk about that later in the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'd like to talk about that after after Elaine can go over the budget, and then we can talk about the garbage truck, and then this tractor and another potential item.
Lump them all together.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I have this in prematurely, so
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
Elaine.
Yay!
Take
You
it
just
away.
wanted to rest your voice.
Okay, so every year we reevaluate the budget. We did this mid-year, and now that we're at the end of the year, this is when we can kind of tidy things up, because a budget is a guide. And when we create this guide, we use a lot of estimations and assumptions, and a lot of things can change. So at this point in the year, we are more confident of where we're going to end up with revenues and expenses. Now, there are still estimates in here. I'm not saying the estimates are gone. We're just able to evaluate things a little bit better. In some instances, we have year-to-date revenues that have already exceeded the original budget, so therefore we're confident in recognizing we can amend our budget to increase those revenues. In other categories, we know that the expenses for the year are almost complete, and if we did not spend all the money that was budgeted, we can reallocate savings from those line items to other areas where we have exceeded budget. So this is somewhat of a reallocation, taking savings from one place, moving it to where we have incurred expenses exceeding budget, recognizing additional revenues. I do want to clarify, this is not the final version that I would be presenting for you in a resolution next week, because there are several line items that we as staff still need to get together and evaluate, mainly being in the grant area with community legacy grants, other projects that we had going on, and CSO projects. So in the detailed version that is provided along with the agenda, you'll see in the notes column, under review for potential amendment, those things could still change. There can be other changes, but I do want to clarify that. For the most part, in each department where we've made changes in revenues and expenses, there's no overall change to the fund budget. So we're keeping things balanced. The one fund where you will see right now, looking at the numbers, we have an excess of revenue over budgeted expenses in the corporate fund, which we'll be evaluating some ways maybe that could or should be used. One of the main areas where at the end of the year we can do some reallocations is within the health insurance expense. When we prepare the budget estimate, we look at the number of employees who are already enrolled in the plan. We look at potential changes where we could have additional enrollments, not counting that everyone would be enrolled, but just looking to see what would happen. Not that everyone will use their entire portion of the city deductible or their health and vision, but you prepare for the worst, not the worst, but a conservative approach. So at this point, we know we've paid our premiums for the entire year. We can still have deductible that could be used. People can still turn in dental and vision, but we're relatively confident where that expense is going to end up. And you may think, wow, you really overestimated health insurance expense. But when you consider for one employee, if they join with family coverage, you could be looking at an additional $18,000 of expense in a year. So that's why we have to budget, not knowing who our employees will be, what their needs will be. So the fact that we're pulling, almost $80,000 back out of health insurance, that's only 4 people that could have been on a family plan that weren't. And the fact that we had several vacancies, like within the police department that we filled, and just not knowing. But I feel it's better to budget that way and be more conservative when we're setting the original budget. And then if we do experience savings, then we can use it in other areas. We've encountered emergencies that we didn't expect, like the HVAC replacement, in one building, and big dump truck repairs, that one repair, $26,000 approximately. But I think that the city's very cautious in their budgeting, and that enables us to make these changes. So most of what you see, I'm not going to go line by line. I'll hit some of the highlights as far as additional revenues in the corporate fund. Our Maryland income tax revenue right now is trending above estimate, which is excellent. As of the end of May, we had already reached about 94% of the budget for the year. Looking back the last couple of years, we see an additional Maryland income tax payment for the month of June, anywhere between $80,000 and $100,000. So if we have another June like that, it's going to put us over budget, potentially another $40,000. So that's why you'll see that increase in that line item. Interest on taxes. We had a tax sale this year. We don't always have a tax sale. That tends to bring in a lot of revenue. We don't plan for that. We only recognize that as revenue when it's actually received. So we've actually gotten, that much in payments. The police grants, we're increasing the revenue, but you'll see an exact increase in the salary expense line items. So they balance out. Other things are trending higher. like the swimming pool, day camp, recreation. But again, we were coming off a COVID year where a lot of that had been pulled down for a year and a half, so we're seeing things get back to pre-COVID levels. So that's where that additional revenue is coming from in the corporate fund. We have seen, as I mentioned, some unexpected expenses at the armory. We had the HVAC replacement. We've had additional expenses in the street department, as I mentioned, in particular for equipment repairs. We are looking to reallocate within the public safety, because we did have 4 gentlemen at the police academy this year initially, then it went down to 3, but still we had significant expense there, which wasn't planned for, so we've increased those budget line items. In the street department budget also were the salt and abrasives budget. That's all weather dependent. We were seeing a significant savings under budget. In discussions with Hayden and Shane, they're gonna go ahead and make sure the salt dome is full before we close out June, but then there are still some additional savings that can be reallocated to cover some of those unexpected repairs of the equipment. So those are the main changes within the corporate fund. There's the potential of purchasing a tractor, which Elizabeth will discuss later, that's included in the recreation department budget. As far as in the water fund, there aren't nearly as many changes there as in the street department, and a lot of that, the biggest item is ARPA funded projects that fall under transmission main expense. So again, that has a revenue source. We'll just have to reallocate and adjust the revenue. Sewer fund, minimal increases or decreases until we have a chance to look at the progress of the CSO projects. But that's usually the project expense is offset with the revenue source, so I think we'll be pulling both those numbers down. The main change in the water surcharge fund was from the purchase of the land, which was already approved and paid. Trash fund is a different issue. There is no additional revenue that I can come up with for the trash fund. The charge that we bill customers for the service is what it is. We don't have any increase in customers. We have the same number of customers, same rate, same revenue. As you're all aware, we've had issues with needing major repairs for the garbage truck, so we're having to outsource that. So for approximately 4 weeks in this fiscal year, we're including the price of collection from Bergmeyer. Right now, it's in the sanitation operating expense, the final line item in that budget. So we're adding $22,000 to that line item. That line item wasn't using its entire original budget allocation, so that's the increase that is being recommended as of this time. We've also seen an increase in the price per ton that's been charged at the landfill.
How much of an increase?
I have the rates somewhere else. I think it went up about $2 a ton in the last.
It was a couple dollars, $2 to $3.
And then they tack on that environmental fee that's kind of built off your base rate. So, at this point, even before we paid any bills in June, we were already at 98.5% of the budget for the year. So we need to put that in. I don't know how much bulk cleanup cost us yet. I have not seen those landfill tickets. That line item could be under as well, but hopefully I'll have some more information to make a better estimate. We've seen fuel prices that have caused that line item in every fund to need additional money. In the garbage fund, because there is no other revenue source to cover these additional expenses, to balance the fund, it would just require us to use proceeds from fund balance to make that work. So, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have, whether it's today or you want to reach out to me in the next few days, but we'll be working to fine-tune this, and this would be in the form of a resolution for you next week if you would approve the budget amendments.
Are you okay? Okay. Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Elaine.
The next item was discussed during your budget preparation process, and this has been budgeted for beginning July 1. This would be a 1% match to any non-police officer employee that contributes to the 457. So it has a estimated cost to the city at about $26,000 total across all the departments. But to implement this benefit for your employees, you would need to approve that at your upcoming council meeting. Okay. The next one, we had sort of talked about dental and vision, but we didn't know any information about dental and vision. Since I've been administrator, through various means, whether it's a survey put out or just people talking, like the desire to have dental and vision insurance has been a repeated and common theme. So this year we got some information about 2 different dental options and a vision option. And I put a survey out to the employees explaining the different options, the coverages, the providers that participate under the different options. And there was a strong preference. I'll bring up the results. It kind of looks like gobbledygook, but I can explain it, I think. The dental PPO was the strongly preferred option because you can go to any dentist and this insurance is accepted. They had a dental HMO and there was Aspen Dental and 2 other dentists in Allegany County that were accepted. I liked that one because it was cheap and my dentist was on the list. I don't, I understand. People prefer to go to the dentist. I don't know if those dentists were even accepting new patients. So the option A would be that the city would offer the dental PPO plan, any dentist, and then vision would be 100% employee responsibility. A rating of 1 was your highest preferred, and a rating of 4 was your least preferred. So rank it, weight, when you average them out, it's obvious that the dental PPO is much preferred. And then we had 5 additional people that only selected one option, and they chose that option. So right now, we offer a dental and vision reimbursement of up to $250 per person in a family for dental or vision expenses. I would really like to be able to offer dental insurance to our employees because I think spending $60 or $80 of that $250 to go get a cleaning when twice a year and x-rays once a year eats up most of that. And I have a feeling a lot of people don't do that because they know that there's more significant issues than what that $250 is going to cover. And we all know from presentations we've heard that your dental health can affect your entire health. And it's daunting when you need a root canal or you have an abscessed tooth or whatever. So looking at what the city budgets for the reimbursement, the $250 per person in each family, I'm trying to get a number to come out somewhere around that. What I'm proposing for your consideration is that the employee or the city would pay 65% of the dental PPO premium for the employee, which is probably a high number, because that is assuming all of the employees we have now enroll. But it would be optional. The deep dental PPO doesn't have a minimum participation number, so it would be optional. So you could be covered under your family's plan, your spouse's plan, and you wouldn't enroll in this. There'd be no payroll deduction associated with the dental, just like health. But that, to offer it to the employees, somewhere around 24,000, and then offer vision insurance. It does have a minimum participation rate of 15%, but I don't think that'll be an issue. Offering vision, but it would be 100% employee responsibility. But as someone that wears contacts and looking at the plan benefits, I know paying the $3.14 for me every other week is going to save me money.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Because my eye doctor participates in vision insurance as well. So that, get rid of the $250 stipend, offer dental and vision. And then something that we've talked about over the years that we haven't implemented is to do a small financial incentive for employees that are covered under their spouse's insurance. Because right now, if, Elaine is, I don't even know whose insurance she is on, but if she's on David's insurance and David has dental and vision through his work, but she might be used to using that $250 to buy her glasses or do her dental copay or whatever else, other non-insurance covered costs. So if we just go with this dental and vision, take away the stipend, we're penalizing the people that have insurance through their spouse. So what the county, Allegheny County does is they offer a small stipend to their employees on a monthly basis if they are enrolled in their spouses, on their spouses or parents' plan, just not on the county's plan. So I'd recommend doing something similar. I haven't done the math. It would be a bi-weekly taxable addition to their paycheck. So if 3/4 through the way through the year, they come to Elaine and say, hey, my wife quit her job, we need insurance. Okay, that payroll deduction or addition ends. The numbers I was thinking about would be $800 if you're not on the city's health insurance, and then an additional $200 if you're not on the city's dental or vision insurance. So a potential of $1,000 a year as an incentive or a token to say you're not on our insurance. I don't know, those numbers probably divide out terribly, and we need to come up with rounder numbers that make it work.
If you make it 10.40, it's 50 cents an hour.
It's about $40 a pay, like every other week, right?
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Yeah.
Taxable, so we're not breaking any laws. So that's kind of like a twofold thing. But we did get advice from the county on how they structure their plan. Thoughts?
It seems decent, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Because I know for years I kept city insurance just for me, and it cost the city money, and I could have just been on my wife's. But because there was no stipend, I said I might as well keep my city insurance. So it would be good to do it that way.
And financially, it's going to be a much bigger savings for us than we won't really be paying out to the employee. At least it's a starting point. Let's see where.
All right.
Maybe for the resolution, we could state it as a per pay amount rather than an annual amount, so it is just a round dollar amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could figure that out before next week.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I know your employees will be very appreciative of that. I think that was a hard one. You have 3 requests for open container repeals. One for Derby Day, which will be July 2nd with a rain date of July 4th. And then two from Frostburg first, one for second Saturday on July 9th, just during the afternoon, and then one for Midsummer's Eve on June 24th from 5 to 10 p.m. No glass.
Yes, we've never had any problems with any of these places, so I think that's fine to give it to them again.
Very good. That will be a resolution as well. And then Zoe Litton with her principal, Misty Dotson, and her teacher, Dr. Carly McGann, will all be at the council meeting. Zoe has agreed to read her If I Were a Mayor essay, and
Mine's not done yet, I'm still working. If it's done that night, I might read mine.
Actually, I coach Zoe in softball.
Oh, really?
Cool.
Cool.
Very cool. So we'll have a recognition certificate for her.
And while we're talking, I'd like to thank Chief Costello and Sergeant Beeman. They went to the school and gave a little presentation on this to kind of encourage the school to do this. And with us having a winner, and I'm on the MML Board of Directors, it makes me feel good that I'll be able to go to this week and be proud that one of our people won.
Absolutely.
Very, very good. Maybe I'll get it next year.
Maybe she can help you write yours.
Yeah, maybe.
So you went to the school and encouraged the kids to write an essay to enter into the contest?
Yes,
Oh, that's
ma'am.
cool. That's really
I have to
thanks for doing
express
that.
my appreciation to Bell Elementary and Principal Dotson too. She assembled, I think it was the 4th grade, I think that was the whole gymnasium full of the students, and Matt and I gave a whole presentation, answered questions. It was great, so we were glad to do it and appreciate the school's support and Commissioner Grove having us do it.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Do we need a break before we talk trash?
Before we talk trash.
Intermission.
Speaking of trash, are the cardboard trailers?
They're on back order.
Yeah.
They did call me and tell me Tuesday that they haven't forgotten about us. That they are just, like everything, delayed. So.
Yeah, okay.
Trying to get more containers.
Yeah.
Okay. See you now. Take care. All right. Tractors and trash.
Okay, I'll talk about 2 things first. There is the budget surplus due to some unexpected revenue, or revenue exceeding what we budgeted for. In January, before we started the budget process, I went around with some of the departments. Hayden went around with his departments, just trying to get a sense of any infrastructure or equipment needs. And I think 2 priority items came to light. One was a tractor for Parks and Rec with a bucket, because right now they only have 1 tractor with a bucket. Most of their stuff's suited for mowing grass. And even though it's a Massey Ferguson and they're dear to my heart, it's not equipped for the job, and it's an aftermarket bucket.
It's a Fisher Price tractor.
And they can't lift anything more than mulch without the whole tractor tipping over.
That has to be videoed too.
So maybe not such a big deal, except if they have a load of stone or dirt or anything at one site and the Bobcat at another site and have to move it, it means they have to drive or trailer the Bobcat back and forth to use the bucket on the Bobcat, because the tractor with the bucket is worthless. So they've asked for a bucket with the tractor, nothing big, but just something that can actually lift what you put in the bucket. Maybe not such a big of an ask.
Minimum requirement.
Kubota has the state bid pricing, and Western Maryland Outdoor down in Cumberland, they have generally honored the state bid price on their Kubotas or done better. So this is actually a done better price, suited for what Gene has asked for. Subcompact tractor for with a bucket for
Utility tractor.
$24,248. This has been budgeted for in those budget amendments. So, but you need to approve it. Second item that has been identified that the Water, Street, and Parks and Rec could jointly use and make good use of, and hopefully reduce our reliance on subcontractors, is a mini excavator. We don't own an excavator, and the backhoe has limitations when it comes to excavating. And putting in a water line with a narrow bucket on a mini excavator is a lot easier than trying to take in a giant backhoe to dig a ditch or what have you.
Or if you're going into someone's backyard for a sewer line, or et cetera, et cetera.
So I have the quote. I just need to get it. Give me 1 second. The quote for the excavator. So Bobcat has the state bid for a lot of this type of equipment, and the way that works is they order it through these people. Our local American Rental orders it, but it deals with these people in North Dakota. I don't understand, but that's like how the state bid price works. But the total excavator that has the arm thing that you can put different attachments on, the jackhammer attachment or whatever, and then it also has a cab that has heat and air conditioning, which might be nice in the winter or July.
When all our water lines break.
You ain't kidding. The total price is $59,000. Shane did inquire about a gently used, rental one, but unfortunately the only one they have this size in stock available to be sold. The guy at Rental informed him that he had 2 other customers fighting over it right now. So we are certainly open to something like a rental fleet used, but I think we felt comfortable if we could get that off of American Rental because we know them and have had good success with them, but that doesn't seem to be an option, and it's not a huge difference in price. So we could go buy one at an auction for half that, but you don't really know what you're going to get. So another thing that makes this more plausible is the street department did buy a trailer that can actually tow this last year. So you can't really track a mini excavator very far around town.
4 hours to get there, 4 hours to get back.
And every department should have a truck that will pull it. So even Parks and Recs, 1 ton should pull it, no problem.
Hayden, what, if they basically take the bucket off of it, what type of accessories?
It really depends on how many hydraulic lines we get run to it. You can do jackhammers, you can do thumbs, you can do like a bucket with a thumb so you can grab stuff, a regular bucket. You can do like stump removal heads, which are just like a fork. If there's 2 hydraulic lines, which I don't know, I haven't looked at that quote well enough to know, but you can do like mulching heads,
Right.
which are just like rotary heads. But
So go around and do bush work and alleys and stuff like that, which we've never had, could really use.
Now that all those attachments are expensive too,
Right.
but it's an option. So.
Yeah.
It's something we could build over time too.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely not gonna run the guts out of it. We would use it frequently, but it's not something. It's something that should last us 20 years.
Right.
So.
But yeah, something like that, if we're gonna make that investment, I'd really just know that you and I ride around the alleys and look, and if we could, as soon as weather breaks, we could start trimming back alleys 2-3 feet.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about trying to get tar and chip done on certain streets that we
Yeah.
couldn't get equipment in. So,
Yeah.
I'd be for that.
So this would eat up all of your money that is all your free money. All your money that would otherwise just go into reserves. If you wanted to move forward with this. However, here's the garbage truck discussion. So, I think the mayor and Commissioner Ritchie have some ideas about what to do. We were pleased that we were able to work something out with Bergmeyer's that was a short-term solution, and we weren't forced into a situation that we were buying a used garbage truck in a panic because we needed to collect garbage. So we're the only municipality in Allegheny County that collects their own garbage. So I think this Westernport, they obviously don't have a spare garbage truck. If they did.
When I talked to Bergmeyer's, they were like, "Yeah, you're the only ones left." So
Okay.
What is our garbage truck?
It's only 5 years.
the other one is a lot older though.
15.
Well, I knew that. I knew we had just bought one not long ago.
It's kind of the design that's been the problem with the PTO on it. I mean, I think it's already been replaced 3 or 4 times already.
3 times.
3 times, yeah.
We think
Yeah,
we
and
might
I was
have
talking
11.
to, I did talk to John Kirby about it too, and he said it's been a problem from the start, so, that truck, with that design.
So what do you want to do?
So, I mean, you know, we've talked about a
Sell
couple.
it to an unsuspecting customer.
Right, yeah.
It's got 6 rubber tires. You're gonna love it.
We did talk about a couple things about possibly, you know, getting these 2 fixed and then starting to look for a new truck over the next year, a different design type, which we did talk about that, which is not, it's not PTO, it's,
Correct,
Yeah, which would be awful. So the one currently, just for the conversation's sake, our newer truck that we're having the problems with is PTO driven. So
What does PTO mean?
power takeoff. So basically, from the engine back, from the engine back, there's a shaft that turns and powers the actual
Hydraulics.
truck
The-
unit.
Okay.
And basically, if one little thing goes wrong, the PTO grenades itself and takes a lot of the truck with it. So we've had that happen 3 times. The old truck,
Self-sabotaging.
yeah. The old truck, the red one, it's a different style to where on the front of the truck, right out the front of the engine, there's a little shaft that powers a pump, and it powers the whole garbage unit. So if that blows up and goes bad, it's as simple as taking the pump right off the front of the truck and we put a new one on it and we're good to go in 30 minutes. So we've replaced those a couple times, and it's, it's a cheap, easy repair for
more
us.
reliable.
Correct. That's the kind of truck that we are searching for if we can. So kind of what Shane, Adam, and I have talked about was we'll go with Bergmeyer's as a stopgap, kind of like a Band-Aid, while the other 2 are being repaired. Once we get them back, and we have 2 fully functioning operating trucks to where we can collect our own garbage, that would be the time to start searching for a replacement. Keeping, even though we don't necessarily love it, keeping the white 2016 with the PTO, even though it's not ideal. It's still better than the old red one, just because the red one's
The
30
wiring,
years
the
old.
wiring on that red one has been chewed up by rats and everything else over the years, so I mean, it's
So
not in.
get those 2 back, keep the newer white one on the road after we find a new one potentially. Then we would just have to decide whether we keep the old red Peterbilt and we just stash it somewhere as an emergency,
Frostburg State University.
or
So we can borrow them both back again.
yeah, or we just sell it for whatever we could get it for, which would be scrap value probably.
It was better than some of those ones we saw in the auction.
True, true. But I guess the biggest thing to consider would be, once we get the two back, do we want to pursue looking for a new truck that we spec out? Do we want to find a used one with low hours? How do we want to go about that? It's something to think about.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we get these two fixed, and then it buys us time to make that decision. You know, and even if we're gonna spec one out and look at it, I mean, we're still looking down the road a little bit here.
So I understand that the new one, who knows when we're gonna get the part?
The part is supposed to arrive July 1st. The part gets to Pittsburgh truck, and then it should be, a week after that we should get the truck back.
Okay, so we do have a pretty firm date on when
Yeah.
that's gonna be back on the road. How about the other one?
The red truck is at Cobra right now. That's a diesel shop locally, and they're just kind of going through the whole truck right now to get all the stuff, to get it to a point where it's functioning. That one, we're confident it should be back by the end of June. So we should have two trucks by the end of the first week of July. Knock on wood. So.
And what kind of contract do we have with Bergmeyer? Is it open-ended or?
It is open-ended with a minimum. So it's $5,900 a week for
59? You told me 55.
59. Sorry.
What's the difference? What did you tell Elaine?
What is it, Hayden?
What's your commission on that?
Yeah.
Help me get Elaine back up off the floor.
And we have the option to continually extend it as long as we need.
Okay.
So if we need them for a year,
it's a minimum of 4 weeks, correct?
Yeah, correct. So, but if we need it longer, we can until we get the trucks back, or we can stop it there.
So, before Commissioner Ritchie, Forsyth, and Grove were on council, John Kirby did an extensive process with Michael Cohen's involvement to solicit contracts for private hauling, similar to what Cumberland does. I don't know the details of why all of that didn't work. I know that a private hauler was unwilling to do yard waste pickup and bulk pickup, A, but B, it really puts us in a situation in terms of staffing. So if we're going to end up with less, you're either going to have to lose people to attrition or pay a lot more for garbage pickup, because right now some of our garbage collectors are the same people that help with snow plowing. And the street department can't really go down to 10 in the winter and continue to deliver the same level, or 9 and deliver the same level of service. So that's I think the biggest issue of switching to a private hauler is that our garbage department is with the street department, and those job duties
I'd like
overlap.
that the city can control that.
I do too,
And I don't,
and you're not subject to whatever price fluctuations a third party
I don't want to.
contract.
I'd like to stay on the plan that we just talked about. So that's my recommendation.
So, since Hayden doesn't care about money,
Spend it all.
4,000 here, 4,000 there.
there's a few different ways we could look about doing this. Before the ARPA money was decided to use the back truck, some of these big companies offer like large municipal vehicle leases. So you could do like a 3-year lease on one of these garbage trucks and pay for it that way. You could use ARPA money to pay for the garbage truck. Or you could set aside the tractor money and the mini excavator money that we talked about today, $75,000 roughly, and
Do we have any idea
save
what
that for a garbage truck and figure out the rest later.
it's gonna cost if we're
We're
looking at
mixing funds though.
350.
Yeah. We're looking at about 300 to 350 for a new truck. That's about where
garbage fund is supposed to
be
Right.
independent.
be independent, so garbage revenue would have to support. So the ARPA, I believe, would still be an
Would be
option.
fine, right.
I don't know that you can save money in the corporate fund and push it over to garbage.
Gotcha.
That would be my understanding.
Okay.
No, definitely would push towards if we could lease, and if we had problems, like we had with the current new truck.
Well, we definitely don't want another PTO,
Right.
so, we're gonna try to get away from that.
I never got very far with looking at these leasing options, but I think if we know that that's something that you're willing to consider versus
It's good to know what the options are, so
I
look at
think-
that and look at what and you don't even know yet if you can get a non-PTO garbage truck rate
They're out there,
there.
they are.
Just go track them down.
Yeah. But I think if we can get through another year with what we have, I think that would, give us time to start really looking.
Next year's ARPA funds, maybe?
Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, even if we order one today, we're not getting it for a year. So this gives us time to at least spec one. If we want to spec one out, we can. If we want to order one bare bones, we can,
Right.
and put us in the right spot.
So we can look into leasing off, we can look,
A couple different things.
yeah. So,
We'll keep working on that.
yeah.
So that goes back to the tractor and the mini excavator.
Well, if that's not gonna be for a year, then it seems like we can still keep on track with the tractor
I
and
think we
the.
keep them,
Get what we need.
yeah.
Let's get what we need. No matter what Hayes charges.
It's coming out of his salary.
And if we keep working with other budget amendments, we can maybe get it to a point to meet that number. Keep scrutinizing some other line items, or maybe there's some savings.
Or maybe those two other people bail out of buying that used one. Okay. City signage. A former, former Mayor Van Backus had emailed me, or called me, I don't even remember now, about the signs in town needing some attention, and that was something that, sorry, I don't know why these pictures are gigantic and I can't make them smaller. There's that one that's right at Bowery Street on Main. There's this one.
Wherever that is.
There we go. There's that one that's where the roundabout will be. That just needs to go for the time being. But then there's this hot mess at when you come into town.
I was just looking at that the other day thinking something needs to be done.
So, Deirdre with Main Street, Frostburg First had gotten a $25,000 grant that was awarded like February of 2020, and then COVID hit, and she was able to, the state allowed her to reuse this to put back into small businesses because that was the priority at the time. So since then, no one's been really pursuing the replacement of these signs, but it's something that we've discussed
Multiple times.
a half a dozen times. So, yeah. So I've talked to Bethany and Lydia about if they'd be willing to kind of. It's going to take some coordination to get all the churches to give you new signs and do something that makes John Martin happy with the Legion.
You really don't show the one beside that the Legion uses, but it's basically two 2x4s.
Yeah.
And then there's this that I'm really curious about.
I didn't notice that one.
Yeah, we noticed that the other night. I'm really questioning.
I don't know if a bunny with its mouth duct taped shut means something that I'm not familiar with, but
It's right above the Adam Ritchie sign.
It was not there when I put my sign in there.
I told you not to leave Sailor on the hill too long, see?
so don't have any price estimates yet, but I wanted to ask if you were okay with them pursuing this, getting estimates with the understanding that ARPA funds could be used to
That's good. Yeah,
replace this sign and the one at Bowery Street. We'd remove the one at the other intersection until the roundabout was complete and figure that out later.
let's clean ourselves up.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Very. Staffing plan, I've talked to a couple of you about this. As you know, we've been without a grant manager for a couple months now, and there's a need to replace that position. What I'd like to propose is more or less creating an additional position that would have our current planner do grant writing in addition to the planning work, comp plan. We have a sustainable community plan due to the state later this year that allows us to apply for some of these grants. We have the comp plan that needs to be done. Do the planning type things, staff planning commission with LJ and community development, and then but also do the grant writing, and then move our current ARPA coordinator into a role that was permanent to do grant management, project management. So right now there's projects that I'm managing because I have no one to manage them for me. The Center Street redevelopment, like some of it is something when I left community development to become administrator I took with me. The roundabout, something that Hayden and I are sharing now that our grant manager was managing before, but Hayden and I are sharing it now to keep it going. This parking lot project right now is me and some Hayden thrown in. But with all of these grants, there's monthly or quarterly reports that are due. There's all the finance tracking that's due. The person that manages all these finances for the grants, those budget numbers oftentimes don't reflect, for grant reporting purposes, the same numbers that do for budgeting, accounting purposes. Elaine follows. So there's and then that becomes very there's intense with the auditor of, okay, why is, certain things with the grant, and it's just eligible expense category, so forth. So, and then we would hire a new position that would be a permits clerk, code enforcement officer, and just provide administrative support as well to community development. So that would be a lower paying position. So don't have details in terms of job descriptions or anything worked out at this point. And salaries would only be discussed either with the commissioner and the mayor or in closed session. But to create an additional position of this project manager, in the past we've done that we've asked for the mayor and council to approve that with a resolution. So I wanted to see how you felt about that. Right now, the ARPA coordinator is being funded by ARPA money, but when the ARPA money comes out, that is a net new position to the city. I'm really proud of our track record with grant money over the last 10 years. It's totaled well over $20 million, and I don't know, everything feels more intense right now, probably because of the ARPA funds, but there's a lot of projects out there that we still would like to pursue, and then, in terms of sidewalks and bike lanes and pedestrian connectors and other things, and it's just, everyone's kind of stretched very thin right now. So I think
Well, it seems like it's important enough to make sure that those projects are managed correctly and that the grant applications get in on time and that the finances are, that every I is dotted and T is crossed, that you really do need to have somebody who's dedicated to that.
And I think the nice thing about splitting up like some of the grant responsibilities between two people is if one person leaves in the future, we're not in this lurch that, now the city administrator gets to deal with Hayden, and trying to figure it out. So, and just for someone to help me with odds and ends things, like Lydia's done some employee surveys for me. She's helped coordinate a lot of these employee events. We've talked about some more community outreach efforts under the ARPA, and like those are things, especially like the employee benefit, or I'm sorry, the employee wellness type things of just when we had pretzel day or whatever, just little things, but it goes a long way. Like those are things that when you're busy get pushed aside.
Yeah.
So having someone to help me in that capacity, I would much appreciate.
Nobody has any heartburn. Okay.
I think it's good.
Okay.
Do what you need to do.
All right. I'll figure how that resolution looks.
Whatever you find.
All right. Oh, I lied. Hayden does care about money.
Just his.
In your personnel manual, you have a provision that you offer tuition reimbursement up to 2/3 for one class at a time, 3 times a year. I'm going to propose that we change that somewhat with the new personnel manual, but under that current provision, Hayden is pursuing his MBA at University of Maryland Online, the Global Campus, and has asked for his tuition stipend or tuition assistance for one class that he's currently enrolled in.
How much commission you get off that?
I don't know.
It's 55, 65, we don't know yet.
So it'd be roughly $2,500.
So the whole thing instead of 2/3, is that what you're saying that the difference is?
That's about 2/3 of what the total
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah.
It's fine with me.
So that is what
And he has to
it
get,
is in the manual.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he has to get a C or better, and he wouldn't get the money until we see his grade on his report card.
That's right, yes.
We have
And
to
we all
sign
have
it,
to,
we
we all have
sign
to
it.
sign his report card.
Yes.
I'm sitting at a 4.0 right now.
Gold star.
3/8's not gonna work.
Any questions or concerns about that? Okay, I'll have you sign that.
Thank you.
Sure. And then any discussion items you may have?
I have a few.
Oh.
I'll try and keep them quick. I don't want anyone to think that it's been forgotten. The Main Street patching before Derby Day, State Highway is still on board with doing that. So if anyone thinks that, if anyone's getting nervous about it, it's still going to happen. Elaine, this is just something to start to think about. Elaine and I have been watching the sanitary sewer charges for a while now. I'm meeting with the county next week to discuss sanitary sewer stuff, but for what we were paying per gallon for sewage treatment last year to what we're paying now is almost double. So,
Wow.
one thing we have to start to consider is sanitary sewer charge budget and what that might entail. So if this is just a temporary pause that LaVale thinks is going to go back down, then that's one thing. But if it keeps trending with the price of gas, then if gas goes to $10 a gallon, then we might be paying 4 times as much per gallon for sewage treatment. It's all still in the works, and we're still talking about it, but I just wanted everyone to be aware of that.
When Chris was still here a year plus ago, we had several meetings with the county, probably 2 years ago, about anticipated sewer rate increases. but then they didn't happen when they should have happened, and now it's happening. So it's, I don't know, like we had recommended to you in increasing that budget for the 2021 and 2022 years, I believe, based on those conversations, but now, I don't know. The timing just doesn't seem to jive with.
Yeah, it doesn't add up with gallons and rainfall and gallons consumption. Like I said, I still have to talk to LaVale and the county about it, but what it basically seems to coincide with is just the price of everything going up. So we send our sewage to the county sends all of that to LaVale. So then LaVale charges the county for those sewage costs, and then the county back charges us. So when costs for sewage treatment for LaVale go up, they go up for us. So that's kind of what it's at right now. But
And is it maybe Cumberland's rates have changed that's affecting us?
potentially, yeah. So we'll keep you abreast of that
Yeah,
information.
keeps in the loop, but that's something we have to do.
The last thing, and on a lighter note, paving wise, so a couple things to consider. Our paving, the low bid for paving this year, including the Columbia Gas stuff, was $925,000. Just met with Columbia and walked with their remediation specialist, and it looks like she's on board with anywhere from $450,000 to $500,000 of remediation check payment. Here you go, do what you want with it. As long as the engineer approves that. So we're not going to bank on that yet, but if that happens, we would be looking at $417,000 left of what we would have to come up with from our paving budget and ARPA. The thing I want to ask your guys' consideration of is Centennial Street is on that list. However, much to your chagrin probably, we should not pave it this year because Columbia is coming through and tearing up Centennial next year. So that's almost
They've
an
been
80.
doing so much on that street.
I know.
Here, I feel like they're always on our street. There's something.
Well, I had our guys there doing preparations to get ready for it to be paved, and then I found out about a week ago about Columbia. So that's almost an $80,000 street for mill and pave what we had planned. So right now I can ask Belt for a credit for that to take that $80,000 and do other stuff, or we can just nix it and save $80,000 this year. So what that boils down to is if I get what I expect from Columbia Gas, if we keep Centennial on and we ask for credit, our total funds we would have to come up with would be $417,000. So $282,000 would be ARPA funds. $135,000 would be our own paving budget. If we nix that $80,000 and just say we're going to do away with it, we'll save the $80,000, we would be looking at paying around $200,000 of just ARPA money, and then another $135,000 of our own. So my question is, do we want to use that $80,000 elsewhere in paving, or do we just want to cut the budget by $80,000?
I'm gonna recommend we use it. For one thing, we tar and chip some streets, you know, up the top here a couple of years ago, and that was just a temporary thing, you know, to try to get a few more years out of those streets. So I think we could probably put that money and maybe pave one or two of them up there.
We'd have to pay $80,000 to pave Centennial following year anyways,
Well,
so you
right.
might as well use that $80,000 on something that we would have.
Well, Columbia will be paying for it next year.
Right.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Another reason not to touch it.
So
So
that's mine.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we were looking at, we were gonna do the whole thing, right? So if you take that, you consider
All the way
lights,
from Shaw.
we were gonna do the whole thing, yeah. So if you take 2 or 3 other streets up there, and we do an
Yeah,
inch and a
like-
half overlays,
Yep.
80 will probably cover that.
Right.
And they'd all be easy streets, probably just be a cut and a cut,
Yeah.
and overlay.
Okay.
Yep.
So if that's something we're okay with, then I'll just ask Belt for an $80,000 credit to put other places.
Sure.
But we're still getting off real easy.
And
this way.
it'll make us so popular.
Yeah. So then what we would be looking at ballpark for total city, whether it's ARPA or our own paving budget, would be about $420,000 of money we have to come up with to pave.
And that's slightly less than what was budgeted.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
granted, don't want to put the cart before the horse. Columbia still has to sign off on the check, but so
We were talking about 6.
It was like 450, wasn't it?
From
Yeah,
Columbia
'cause-
Gas.
No, in the budget for paving.
Or, yeah.
We did a total of 600.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's going to save us.
Yeah, we're
To
still.
hold that money back for next year.
Is
and
it
hope
that 600?
That included
That was-
Columbia, that included ARPA.
But it didn't include Columbia Gas money.
I think we were 600 flat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that-
450 ARPA, 150 city. Yeah, so it saves both.
Right.
this will be the biggest paving project ever. It's almost $1 million. So if anyone says you're not spending money on paving, even though they don't have to know that it's Columbia Gas money.
But, no, it's going to be a big chunk of town. But let's put the rest of it back for next year and hopefully petroleum's down and
Yeah.
180,000 will go a long way.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Hey, we're saving money. Blaine should be happy. We're saving money. We're spending lots of money, but we're saving money too.
Well, we should get our second half of the ARPA money in July.
Yeah.
I'll be ready to spend it.
Yes.
As long as you get A's. All right, folks, it's almost 4:30.
And I will not be here next week.
Happy vacay. Where are you going?
Anywhere where I can turn my phone off.
It's nice and cool there.
Oh
You're gonna
yeah,
have a
like
great time.
94 degrees and I'm 98% humidity.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Wonderful. I don't sweat enough already.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all, Jack.
For recovery.
Your daughter wanted to come to Whitney's Inwood last
Yeah,
week.
I was with her,
Hey, thanks, bud.
but they have something they've got to
Appreciate
do.
it.
She said
Sorry
she was
for
gonna
giving
go
you a hard
grass, so I was
time.
gonna comment
That's
back,
his,
say
it was
you
his
go
turn
to
to
grass.
barrel.
No,
Have you heard
She
anything
can go to
from
Whitney's class.
Belgium?
no, they feel sorry for my